My brothers and sisters, that's quite a dose of reality that Jesus gives us in the gospel this day. So jarring is the gospel message that throughout the centuries, people have tried to take it, to water it down, to change it, to reinterpret it. You have people like Thomas Jefferson who took his Bible, cut out all the miraculous stuff, and left only what he considered to be the moral teachings. You have people like our modern-day televangelists, the prosperity gospel preachers, that say what Jesus really promises: if you pray hard enough, believe hard enough, basically millions and possessions will rain upon you. But what is Jesus saying when we take him at his word? He's not saying he came to be a great moral teacher. He's not saying that he came to promise us wealth and prosperity and permanent good health. What Jesus came to give us is a share in eternal glory. But the path to glory is not wide and easy. It is narrow and at times challenging. Challenging not because God wants us to suffer. He did not create us for that. It's challenging because it's so different from what the world promises us. All those people that have taken the gospel and tried to reshape it, tried to make it fit the way of the world. What Jesus invites us to do is to make sure our way fits the way of God. And so he speaks to us clearly that if we are faithful to living the gospel, we won't always be well received. We won't always be understood, and often will be misinterpreted and will be judged. But there's only one judgment that matters, my brothers and sisters. And that's when we stand before God's throne of glory and we give an account of our lives. How well did we trust? How well did we love? And what sort of witnesses were we to God's saving message? That should be our focus. And so paired with the dose of realism that Jesus gives us is also the reminder of how we are to live our lives, not in fear of trembling, not in doubt and despair, but rather in trust and in peace. Those who are not anchored on the Lord give in to despair and to doubt and to fear because they see themselves in the midst of a shifting world. And without that anchor point, it's very hard to stand and to be stable. And so they're constantly grasping at different things and being moved about. And we need to be careful lest we give into that same temptation. Anchor yourselves on the Lord. Anchor yourselves on his saving word and the grace of the Eucharist that he's given us to sustain us in this journey. And you will be at peace. We have to remember that peace is not the absence of persecution. It's not the absence of suffering. Peace comes from knowing who we are and knowing who we belong to. The evil one comes and wants to stir us up, wants to sow doubt, wants to sow despair and discord. And whenever we see those currents rising up among us, we can be certain that they're not from God, because God did not create us for fear. If you doubt that, just remember the two anchor points that Jesus gives us in the Gospels. Prior to his death and crucifixion and his resurrection, the message was always, do not be afraid. After the resurrection, the message becomes, peace be with you. If we take those two statements and make them the guiding posts of our lives, we will go through that narrow path that leads us to glory. And as we go through this journey, we don't go it alone. The Lord is there with us. But also we have the guidance of so many of our sisters and brothers in faith who've gone before us, particularly the martyrs. With the martyrs, we remember the principal thing about them is not that they died. That's how you get to martyrdom. But what martyrdom recognizes is that so firmly did they cling to their faith in Jesus and his saving message, that nothing deterred them from that path, not even the threat of suffering and death. Today, as we celebrate St. Catherine of Alexandria, and as we've celebrated the martyrs in these days past, let's ask their intercession, that our faith may be as firm as theirs was, that we may give as joyful and incredible witness of God's goodness as they did, so that one day we may rejoice with them in glory.